Welcome to the Dance Centre podcast. I am your host, Claire French, and I'm joining you from the traditional unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, also known as Vancouver, Canada. I'll be talking to dancers, choreographers and other members of the dance world here on the West Coast to find out more about their creative work and practices, and to discuss what it means to us to be dance professionals today. Thanks for joining us. I am here with Jeanette Kotowich. I am very much looking forward to this conversation. I hope with Jeanette we will talk about the many things that she is doing, but we'll see what we can fit in. But for our audience, Jeanette is a multi-disciplinary iskwêw, independent dance artist, choreographer and professional auntie of Nehua Métis and mixed settler ancestry. Originally from Treaty 4 territory, Saskatchewan, she creates work that reflects the Nehua Métis cosmology within the context of contemporary dance, Indigenous performance and Indigenous futurism. Fusing interdisciplinary collaboration, decolonial practices and embodied research methodologies, Jeanette's work references protocol, ritual, relationship to the natural spirit world and ancestral knowledge. There is so much to talk about in there. And there is so much to find out about the wonderful Jeanette Kotowich. So let's get started. Welcome, Jeanette. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start with the fundamental question. When, how, and why did you start to dance? As you recall today, as you want to tell us today.
Yeah, I always think back to my childhood, and I grew up in a family of dance, and we were always putting on productions. Me and my siblings, we would make theater pieces, make little dance pieces. We would do it at the cabin. We would do it in our basement, and we would charge admission to our parents to come and watch our shows that we would put on, at a very young age. And I don't know, the admission would be a couple of rocks or whatever, commerce we had also thread into our productions. So yeah, I was always, of that mind and of that lens, and then just happened to be that, my siblings also was in that energy as well. So we would put on productions. And then I think I started like formalized dance practice when I was about 8. And I actually started off with gymnastics at the age of like 4, because my mother was a dancer. She came to dance a little bit late, whatever that means. But in her 20s, she started to take up dance, but she didn't want to be a parent that sort of like forced her own interests on her children. So she thought, okay, I'll put the kids in gymnastics. But I was actually a little bit too young for gymnastics at the age of 4. And I've always had this thing where I fall asleep when I'm in cars. So my mom would pick me up after school and take me to gymnastics. And then she'd look in the back seat and I'd be passed out. And so she thought, like, what am I doing? My kid needs rest. And so I didn't do anything for a while there, and then eventually came into doing dance. And I did, the sort of studio-based dance practices. I did ballet. I grew up in a very structured ballet culture. We had a very disciplined instructor in Regina, Saskatchewan, where I grew up. And our instructors came from Brazil, so a quite old style of teaching, which we don't see too much of anymore. Mm-hmm. And so, I did ballet and then modern dance. And then, that was my early childhood, and a lot of hours at the studio. I remember every weekend, like in my teens, every weekend I was at the studio, every Saturday, every Sunday, body conditioning every Sunday morning. So, it was a fully immersed experience in my childhood. And also both my closest siblings in age were also immersed in dance practices.
So at the same studio as you? Did they? Yeah. I know there's a kind of, it's the same for me, starting really young and being on the stage at like 3 and 4 and 5 when it's kind of too early, but then kind of also just the memories of that come in.
Yeah.
Even now, I love the idea of the rocks as kind of admission. Because there's
Yeah.
something about the pact, right? There's something about the contract that says,
Yeah.
you understand we're going to give you an experience and you are going to give us something that acknowledges that. There's like something about that trade and gifting and all of that stuff that's very early in that setup. I love that. So your training has probably changed, or maybe just
Yes.
kind of matured, or kind of you've become more discerning as you've older. But are there key stages in your career or maybe in your training or something that you'd like to talk about, like maybe people that have influenced you, or like types of dance or genres of dance that have shifted, or when it shifted for you?
Yeah, well, after high school, I'd always done dance, so I didn't really know what else I was going to do with my life. So I moved to Vancouver, and that's when I did the Simon Fraser 4-year training degree program. And I still was, at that time, still didn't feel that called to try to pursue dance professionally because, there's so many barriers, there's so many challenges. I was still struggling with my identity. I struggled a lot with this idea of academic dance practices, just not, it wasn't fully for me. And so a really sort of important part in my journey was attending when the Banff Centre reopened their Indigenous dance training in 2009. I attended a national Indigenous choreographers summit, still in my early 20s, and I met all these amazing Indigenous choreographers from across Canada, and also including our relatives from, down south and from Australia and New Zealand. So that opened up this whole world to me for, I don't know, community dance practices, healing-based arts, cultural practices that I think that if I didn't find that, I probably wouldn't have pursued dance. And in many ways, I don't really even feel like I drove myself into a professional career. I feel like it just kind of happened. And, and you just keep taking one step in front of the other. And then, and these last couple years have been very transformative for my practice. So, but the people in my life that have been supporting me and have been mentoring me, obviously Michelle Olson of Raven Spirit Dance. I got connected with her shortly after that summit at Banff, maybe about a year after, and then have been part of the company, Raven Spirit Dance, performing Michelle's work for the past, I don't know, 11 years or 12
Yeah.
years, something like that.
Yeah.
So, those kinds of connections being, our arts practices and our life, they run beside each other. So there's been so many experiences, births, deaths,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, divorces, all the things, that you are partial to in another person's life.
Even happenstance, yeah, and like serendipitous kind of events too, like happy accidents, all of that is kind of almost like being ready and open, or being at a place in your professional life when you can see it as opportunity, or see it as a learning experience, or something like insight. I think being ready for
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I just want to name a few other folks in
Please,
my
yeah, please
life.
do.
So I actually went to university with Star Marenko. So
Yeah, yeah.
she's also been somebody that I've been, following for many, many years, even before Raven Spirit Dance. And she has always encouraged me around writing grants and, taking the next step. And even when I wasn't ready, would always be encouraging me. So there's a lot of women in my life, like female mentors. There's really, strong Indigenous dance community in British Columbia, in Vancouver, and mostly all of it's being held by women. Margaret Grenier of Dancers of Dal Mohammed has been also, such a force in my life and has taught me so much. Yeah, so many dance practices, have been running through me in so many different perspectives. And then another major mentor in my life is Charles Cornejo, who is a Maori artist. Yeah, so those are some folks that I'd like to name today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So, do you think you could pinpoint when dance became your professional calling? Like, would you say that it's like, as a dancer, I feel like it's been happening for over a decade with Raven Spirit and with your Métis, performance and all of those things as an independent dancer or dance artist. But I feel like to say that dance is a professional calling for you now seems very much about integrating different or interdisciplinary perspectives, but also this idea of like your identity as a person influencing your art making, and then that becoming your artistry. And so I feel now there's a place where I think it would be very safe for you to be able to say that you are, you have a professional calling and you are a professional dance artist and you make dance art. Would you say that's fair? And would you say that there is a point where you could say when that calling happened for your own artwork, really, actually?
Yeah, for my own artwork, I would say about when I fully stepped into it about 2.5 years ago. But there's been
Yeah.
different stages along the way, right? Like for many years, I was doing both my dance contracts and also working in the service industry. So stepping away from the service industry because I had too much arts work, and my heart is more in the arts work. So like that was a step in my career of not having a day job and really making my income from arts. And but at that time it was still mostly being a company dancer, dancing with the three major Indigenous dance companies in Vancouver, Dancers of Jamla Hamid, Raven Spirit Dance, and Veni Dancy. So that kept me very, very busy for many years. And then actually, I think I made my first like independent work in 2015. And that's a piece that I actually still perform. That's my piece Step In, where I perform and share my Métis dance practice as a solo. And that piece, yeah, is still going, and it's still very relevant. I actually performed it a week ago at Batoche in our Métis homelands, a big Métis festival. But these last 2.5 years have been very transformative, and I feel like COVID also sort of accelerated this push in my life to really dig into my arts practice and my perspectives. And I needed to really return to my own body, my own perspectives, my own histories, my own land, because I've had so many different voices in my life that I think that incubation time of our period of isolation during COVID really helped me to look inside myself. And I think I was always going on that journey anyways, but I think it just kind of like heightened the need to do that because we weren't gathering anymore, we weren't doing group work anymore. So it's been a huge gift actually in my life, this period of isolation that we've all been through, and also just the experience of how we relate to each other as humans. Having all experienced something so similar, that it's been so transformative. I can't even say.
Yeah, I think there's something about, kind of one giving themselves permission, like to give yourself permission in that time when you have that to go there, and I think it has to be kind of on the precipice, or you have to be kind of like, okay, now's the time. You have to kind of know what it
Yeah.
is you're trying to reflect upon to be able to do
And
it,
I
I think so. Yeah.
totally, and I generated so much. And one of the things that I think also helped was like I worked a lot in the unrefined and sharing unrefined process. Like, turnarounds were like quite quick because everyone was always like scrambling, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
I have this money and then there's this opportunity and like, can you do it online? And you're just like, well, I've never done it, but let's try it, So I think
Yeah.
that also really helped is, our work is so sacred, but not always to be that precious about the process, to just share the steps, whatever's happening for you. So there's a beautiful archive in that way too, of the journey, through COVID
Yeah.
and all the new skills.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you were teaching me a few things about Instagram at one point for when we were sat in a theater auditorium. Like the distancing and kind
Oh
of
yeah,
giving me
yeah,
some
yeah.
tips.
I
I
remember.
seem to remember
Yeah,
that.
I remember.
Okay, this is really great. But I feel like then obviously COVID has been a really big, it's had a big impact on how you've been able to kind of tap into your artistry and also kind of connect to processes and approaches that you've learned along the way, maybe even inherited, but that you've also kind of starting to prioritize ways of working for yourself. And I wonder what the biggest or one of the what are the greatest challenges that you've found? You've talked about some of them in a way, but now, yeah, maybe not quite now because I think you're in a really great place. And challenges are maybe not there for you at the moment, but you have overcome some. And so,
Mm-hmm.
on the way, or what would you say have been the greatest challenges?
I think the thread is from what I was just saying before is
Yeah,
like making space for myself and stepping
yeah,
into that, because I've been for so many years in the service of other people's vision, other people's arts practice, and that is so fulfilling and such an important part of our community. Any kind of community is to give back, and but now it's like I can't really go back because now I
yeah,
also have the fulfillment and satisfaction of what it feels like to be a leader in my own way and to be sharing my artistic voice, which is also so fulfilling. And I'm still in a fresh stage of what that feels like. But I guess it's been my greatest challenge, I think, is to step into the vulnerability of, you know, my own arts practice, of sharing my arts practice, because you know how it is. It is so vulnerable.
yeah. And also stepping into the vulnerability of leading.
Yeah, leading. Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, leadership is it's a vulnerable place to be, to put
Yeah.
oneself. And could we talk maybe a little bit about that, like challenges of
Yeah.
leadership and challenges of shared practice? Because you and I have had conversations around this a little bit. We've only just started, but do you see them as challenges? I do right now in a beautiful way. In a beautiful way, I feel like they are the kind of challenges I want, in my life. I want to feel the questions of it, and I want to feel the stuckness. I want to feel how I can't quite get to those things I'm trying to get to. Like what's that space that feels challenging, but in a good way, in productive way.
Yeah, it's like the curiosity, right?
Yeah.
Why you keep coming back to the questions you're asking. And I've been phrasing my work lately as creative research. So
Mm.
that's my way of positioning my work as a work in progress, basically. Is that it is a continual thing, just like our identity is constantly shifting and evolving, and our experiences, so is our practice. And I think a challenge is time. I'm not always very patient. I want to get there. And artistic relationships and leadership and, sharing perspectives and co-shared spaces. It takes time to establish a language, trust, communication, and there's so many different styles of how we relate to each other. And so I would say I'm still quite fresh at it, but I'm always looking for my own personal healing. I'm always looking to put us as humans first and then artists, so that people are cared for in their basic needs. And then, I really feel like we can't be good artists unless if we're well humans, unless if we're well in our lives. And that's a process all the time. That's, we're not always you can't always show up to the circle or the studio or the space and feel all put together. But then that's also part of it, is to give space to our fractures and give space to, our ways that we're disconnected, and trying to search for that connection. And so those continue to be my curiosities. And a lot of how I try to work with that is intuition. What does the group need? What do I need? If it is we need to grab a coffee before we start, like, that's totally cool. Right? So I don't
Yeah,
know
and
if
I
that
think,
answered the question, but
well, again, it's more like you say, it's more about kind of a conversation around creativity and around being artists and around, and being adaptive, even in this conversation, to the fact that, we're not holding each other to the things we're saying as a truth necessarily, that there'll be different challenges at different times. And the feelings of kind of fleeting, because something
Yeah.
happens that can ground you in a moment and then unground that, uproot you in a moment. And so I think there's something just about being able to embrace that, as a human artist, like
And
yeah,
I think it's also so beautiful the people that come into our lives, right? Like I've
yeah,
been, as you know, like from our time together the last, 6 months or
yeah,
whatever, is like
yeah,
inviting other people in and taking a chance too, because, like not every person in your community is going to be a deep connection, right? But, I do also want to invite people into my development and my growth and my learning and my experience. So, I have been in a process too of inviting other folks that I have not been in connection with, and because I've been doing all this other work
yeah,
for the last decade, right? That now I'm in a process of finding different allyships and just also, wanting to have shared practice as well with just artists that I feel drawn to the way that they're working, and that, that there's is a language and trust.
yeah. I would love to talk more about the work and that's leading up to that you've been doing recently, your own work. But I just want to go back to this idea of the challenge of time, because I have a burning question for you
Okay.
around your time now and how busy you are touring currently. So maybe you could talk about the project you're literally, between shows right now, and then your time with Raven Spirit, which I know is always maturing, and that relationship is very special and extremely rich, and constantly growing. And then your own work, and that's
Mm-hmm.
taking off as a leader of your own work, not just your solo work, but also your group work. And that to me sets off, and I have the same thing, like time becomes a challenge
Mm,
just because everything demands time, but there's not, and so you have to shift your priorities, but it doesn't mean you're choosing one's more important than the other.
mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't know why that.
time and capacity, right? So it's
Yeah,
like there's only so many hours in a day, and as the demands get more and more great, as I continue to do my own work, as there seems to be more demand, it's like I'm still just one person. I still only have the same I only have so much capacity, right? So that is definitely a challenge, and I've been bumping up against that for the last year for sure. So, there's ways to sort of work towards offsetting that, but it's hard. It's hard.
I think that there's something really beautiful about you being able to fit it all in and not abandoning, kind of not abandoning one for the other. There's a
Yeah,
kind
I'm
of,
definitely trying.
yeah,
And trying to stay well, right? That's the thing, is try to stay
yeah,
well, because I want to also, be living a good life too, not just only devoted to practice. But it is vocational. Like it's so intertwined. Like it's so
yeah,
intertwined. So I'll let you know what I'm up to right now.
please do.
I am on tour with a play written by Thai Amy Grauman called You Used to Call Me Marie. And it's being produced by Savage Society. And right now we're on a month long, or maybe almost a 5 week long tour in the prairies. So today I'm in Smoky Lake, Alberta, which is very close to old settlement called Métis Crossing. So we had 3 shows there the last couple of nights. And before this, we were at Batoche, which I already mentioned, which is a huge Métis festival, which also has a lot of history there, which is a location where the Battle of Batoche, and there was yeah. Anyways, there's lots of history there. I'm not the best historian, but it's a monumental place for the Métis resistance and the early, government that was being established. And so we were there last week, and it was actually the 50th anniversary, I guess, of the Back to Batoche days. And my family was able to join, and it was a huge, I don't know, just amazing experience, amazing festival. And I used to go there as a girl. We would go in camp, and so it was really awesome to be back. And obviously, the festival hadn't been happening the last 2 years, so there was a really great turnout, and I had friends there from Toronto. I don't know, it's so fascinating, Métis folks, because our history we've been disfranchised, right? Like for so many years. So there's such an amazing spread of where Métis people are all across, Turtle Island, really. So it was a beautiful experience to be there. And yeah, so that's what I'm up to right now. I'm on tour, and it's great to be also on this land, the skies. And I have never felt like I wanted to move home to Saskatchewan, but now that I'm like, I'm getting into edging towards, my late 30s, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe, maybe I would want to have a quieter existence at some point.
And it's a shift, right? It's a shift
Yeah.
of perspective, and it's an opening up to and it's different inspiration too, like as a human being, like you were saying about the wellness and about,
Mm-hmm.
what is it you need? What is it you need? It's so beautiful. It's lovely because it's like hypnotic. Like we
Yeah.
kind of, and it's in your world. And when do we get the opportunity to, have a conversation that goes, can go there? We don't,
Yeah.
it's
It's
like,
like present, past, and then like future. Because I know that's where we're going to inch up towards. It's like, what's next
exactly.
for me, and then what's next. So,
Yeah, and you've got this kind of marker in your brain about, oh right, yes, I'm talking about this.
mm-hmm.
We've gone back, but there's no reason why we can't go back to go forward. We talk about that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do. So
So maybe I'll share about Quay maybe, and
please, yeah,
yeah,
and then
and
we'll
then we
move
can
on to
chat. Yeah,
the one that I
exactly.
wish I could pronounce, but I can't pronounce. I keep trying, and Kisiskâciwan. I don't think I'm saying
So
that right.
so in Nahau and Cree, K's are pronounced like G's, so it's
Oh,
Kisiskâciwan, which is kind of
Gis,
like Saskatchewan.
yeah,
Kisiskâciwan. Yeah.
Kisiskâciwan. I think. Thank you.
Kisiskâciwan. Yeah, it's tricky even for me.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll
Kisiskâciwan.
get there.
Yeah.
Quay. Am I saying Quay right?
Yeah.
Quay.
Quay
Okay.
is right.
Okay. Let's talk about Quay.
Yeah, so that's been, I guess, talking about the shifts in my practice, and that's been the piece that I've been learning about leadership and ensemble work and directing other artists. So that work has come about quite quickly, and it's been quite a force. I started working on that piece last August, so just about a year ago, and I had some. Oh, we were going to talk about Raven Spirit too, so don't let me forget.
I won't. We will go back to Raven Spirit. Yeah.
So I had a commission by the National Arts Centre, and I had a little summer residency with them. And so that's how Quay as an ensemble started in the development. And then shortly after that, I had the idea for Quay in about February of last year. And then I did some research as a solo artist. And then I decided, you know what, like the next step for me creatively would be to try ensemble work. And so I wrote a grant around my ideas, and then I got this National Arts Centre commission. And then shortly after, I found out that I received my funding. And so I had an invite from the dance center to be involved in dance in Vancouver. I was so fortunate because I had like basically a 2-week long theater residency because
Mm-hmm.
because dance in Vancouver was going to be digital last year in 2021. And so there wasn't the usual programming, and it's usually more festival style where you get half a day or whatever to tech. So I was so fortunate to have that. And I shared a workshop development, what I called a digital offering of a live stream. And if you've been following my practice this last couple of years, I've been working and exploring and experimenting with dance for film. It's very much, an intuitive process. I don't really have any technical training or anything, but what was great about that is I just experimented, and I just explored, and I had, a whole camera set up and operators, and I looked at the cameras as part of the choreography. And so it was a really amazing experience. I was so happy and felt so satisfied with the outcome. And then the next step to Quay was presenting it live. So that was a process after, sharing live stream. And then I had about 4 or 5 months to sort of let it simmer and regroup, and then performed a live work in February of this year, 2022, at Matriarchs Uprising, also at the Dance Center. So that's, I mean, I can't go back now that it's been performed
No.
live. Like, it's like, oh gosh, like I love the live stream, but like I watched the live stream after we had shared the live performance, and I was just like, oh my goodness, we've developed so far past that. So, and now that piece is resting a little bit again. I do want to continue it. I looked at the time that I worked on that. I think it was for both experiences in its entirety. I worked 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Like creatively in studio, 10 weeks. Obviously there's so much work that goes outside of it, but as a dance maker, like that is a really fast turnaround. So
Yeah.
that's why I say it came with such force. Like it's just come so quickly. And also I think what's been inspiring to me is working with other artists, because
Yeah.
we all put our heads together, right? That energy of the collective really has helped to, help it be so quickly, I don't know, in such a way that it's been so quickly shared. And
Yeah, and it's also the intensity, but the level of experience of your
yes,
dancers and you
artists, yeah,
and the people coming into the space, like, and so the content is already extremely rich, in what you're working with. So the questions can be rich, and that speeds up the process in a strange way. Like, but you have two products. I don't like that
yeah.
word, but you have two products from that process. And for creative research, that's, I mean, absolutely amazing. Like to have both those full, experiences as
Yeah,
presentations. It's, yeah,
because then you
amazing.
can be critical too, right, about your
Yeah.
practice and what where I want to direct it next. So I will be wanting to work on that piece again next
Yeah.
next year as creative research. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a privilege for me to just come in, a couple of times and be part of that, just like it was for you to come into, my kind of creative research, to
yeah.
coin your term, for a little minute. So that feels really special. I do just want to say, I think we can still access that live stream though.
Yeah, I have my Vimeo. I think it's on my Vimeo too. And if
Okay.
anyone does want to witness it, they can just reach out to me or
Yeah, or
even
to the
you,
dance
and I
center,
can.
and we can find it for you. Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
think it'd be great.
yeah,
It was so fun. I felt like it was research, but it was respectful, in
yeah.
terms of how it was, presenting something to the audience. So thank you for that, and all of your collaborators. Great.
Oh, I'll just speak about Raven Spirit. So right now I'm in artistic residency at Raven Spirit, and I have been for this whole year. And it's the first time that Raven Spirit has ever given out resources for an artistic residency. So I'm sort of their inaugural, like,
Woo.
let's try out this pilot of what it means to support an artist. So I'm so, so grateful. It has, relieved some of the pressure of what the challenges of
Yeah.
time and capacity and demand, just to have some consistent resources, and when I remember when, I think maybe it was Star that told me that her and Michelle had been chatting and that they wanted to offer me this, and I kind of got freaked out right away. I was like, no. I'm like, I don't want to. I'm like, I'm tired. I don't have time for, like, to do anything else. And then they're like, no, you don't have to do anything. We just want to support you. And that's it.
Oh,
You don't have to, like, do anything more than what you're already doing.
it's because of what you're doing. Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, right away I
No,
was just like,
don't give me
no.
extra work. No, don't give me extra things to do. Like, don't give me
Exactly.
extra support. What? Okay, yes. Thank you. Yeah,
Exactly.
that thought process, I can just imagine you doing that.
So that's
That
been the next step, though, with Raven Spirit is, for so many years, I've been a company dancer. I've been working on Michelle's works primarily, working with her, working beside her, and this next phase has been them supporting my work. And, we've been on so many journeys, as I said, with each other. And so I've always felt like I've received so many opportunities from Raven Spirit, and to now be supported in my own practice feels very healthy. And again, like, back with this thought of time, the cycles, and now kind of Michelle is doing another journey in her life. She's
Mhm,
in school and getting her master's, and so
mhm.
there's also a need in what their demands and capacity are for emerging voices. And I would say I'm also established, but I'm emerging in my experience of direction and, all
And
of
we're all
that.
emerging in something, right? If
Yeah.
if we're looking for new opportunity, then we're emerging in something. And if we're not, then we're doing the same thing we've always done. And I wonder how much we can benefit from that, and the world can benefit from that. But I think there is also what's beautiful about this is the evolution of an organization, and the you being part of that process,
Yeah.
and you actually being able to support their evolution, because you have
Yeah.
something to offer them in order to support that process. Yeah, that's great. It's lovely. That build of trust, and how that trust can actually expand possibility, is beautiful. I think it's a beautiful case study for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the relationship is so reciprocal, right? It's
Yeah.
just so dynamic and reciprocal, like
Yeah.
the ways that we are supporting each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. So what's now? We've talked about a little bit. I think there is a bit more with your solo.
Yes.
Maybe we could talk about. I'd love to talk about that, or for the listeners to know about that. And then what's next?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're
Well, I guess
big
it's all
enough.
kind of, yeah, it's all kind of the same question. So I have a very
Yeah.
full fall planned for myself. And, as I'm here on tour, I'm still planning my own tour. So and it just keeps getting more and more full. So my solo work that we were speaking about, Kisiskâciwan, is going to be premiering in multiple cities, and
Yay.
I'll be kicking off sort of sharing this work, which is a piece that I've been developing over many years. It's sort of this testament to how busy I've been, I think, because I've probably started sort of like formally digging into this piece in, I don't even want to say what year, but it's been a number of years. But because I was always so busy with other people's practices, I could only slot in 2 weeks here and there. And so that's sort of why it's taken such a long journey. But I'm actually so grateful that I have taken this amount of time with this work, because having had the experience with Kwê and directing other artists, now I'm using all the tools that I've developed to direct myself. And I also feel like this work has needed me to mature in a way. I think if I would have performed it and shared it 3 years ago, or like I was supposed to premiere it just before COVID, or like during COVID, and so that obviously didn't happen. But I think it would have been a very different piece if I shared it 2-3 years ago than what it will be now. And I feel very comfortable with the expression that it is now, and how it's sitting in my body and how it's sitting in my journey, that I feel like it's been waiting for me to mature to get to this place of maturity, artistic maturity, or like personal maturity, to share I think what the piece wants to be, a fully realized work. So, but yeah, I'm kicking off at Transmess in Germany. I'll be doing an open studio showing for the arts market there. So that's obviously a huge opportunity for me. That'll be huge international exposure. And I feel so grateful to have been included in, how dance will be represented from so-called Canada. And so that'll be the first thing that I'm doing. So that's late August. Well, it's right on the bridge. So like the last day of August and the first 4 days of September. So right after this tour, I'll be back in Vancouver and getting prepared for that.
Heading to
And
Dresden.
Yeah.
Great.
Or Dusseldorf. Yeah.
Heading to Tanzmesse in Dusseldorf.
Yeah.
So the dance center is taking a group of people over, and then more people are represented on a digital stream too. So it's wonderful that there are a few of you able to go over and do present live. I think that's great. So fantastic, great.
I just don't even know. I've never done anything like this. So I'm just keeping an open mind and an open heart, and I'm just going to go, and just share who I am, and just try to, just be exactly who I am. And that's it.
And they're so lucky, and they're so fortunate, that you're going to do that, and they're going to meet you. So yeah, great. And then where's next?
So then after that, I come back to Vancouver, and that's where I'm going to have my official premiere. I've been working towards this, premiere with the Dance Centre for quite a while, an extended residency at the Dance Centre just because of COVID. So I'll premiere in the Ferris Theatre. I'm going to do 2 shows.
So that will be on September 30th and October 1st?
Yeah. And I'll just say right now that I'm going to have a little party after on October 1st. We're going to have a little social. And so everyone that comes to see the show is invited, because that's also a very important part to my practice is social dance, and, the freedom that we get from dancing or how our bodies want to dance to, music that we love.
Mm-hmm. That's how the other piece started. The group piece started with that sense.
Yeah, sort of.
Did you end with it as well on any of the nights? Did you continue with the audience
with
show?
Quay?
Yeah, at the end of any of the evening shows, did you break
No,
into social? No,
it was still 2 COVID times.
Yeah, I suppose.
The restrictions just got lifted the day before, because I had because it's been up and down with we don't have restrictions now, but I had a limited capacity of
That's right.
I think 40 or 50, and then just the day before it had lifted, so there was still COVID times.
Yeah. Well, that's nice. We'll get to dance with you this next one as well.
Yeah, so that'll be my Vancouver premiere, and then after a week later I'm heading to Edmonton, and I'll be sharing the work with Brian Webb's dance company. And then I go to Montreal to Tangent, and I'll have a four show there. I'm on a mixed bill, so that's I think November 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. So 4 shows there. And November 4th is my birthday, so I'll be dancing on my birthday. Yeah. And then I just found out that I'll also be sharing the work at Wassagichuk Festival right after that in Toronto for Native Earth. So I've got a 4-city tour happening this fall.
That's wonderful. That's so great. Yeah, congratulations on that. Yeah, it's from what I've seen, I love the humor in it, as well as there is a wisdom. There's a wisdom in it, and there's space, wisdom, and humor. You've got it all.
Oh, I love
color and texture. Yeah, you've got it all in there. Yeah.
And not many people have seen what I've been up to, so
that's all I'm saying.
You've been the invited.
That's all I'm saying. But I'm sure you're still working on it, and you're working with your collaborators on all of those things, and I look forward to its evolution.
Yes.
So we did get to Raven Spirit, didn't we? We did talk about what you wanted to talk about with Raven Spirit. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Have you been back to Banff? Have you had the opportunity to go back to Banff, or have you gone back and done an Indigenous thing again?
No. I haven't gone for the residency. I have gone for other residencies I think I've been probably there twice at least with the Dancers of Damal Hamid, working on developing work in the theaters there. I would like to go for Quay, so I'll just put that out there. That's my vision, would be to spend a couple weeks there with all my collaborators and just incubate and marinate. So that's my goal for that. But I haven't been back to the residency program because I'm always touring in the summer.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking as well, it won't be long before you may be invited to lead on that program.
Yes.
That's coming down the pipeline, right? Because that's where I just shouldn't say pipeline. That was controversial. Controversial choice of words right there. But it is, on the trajectory for you.
Yes.
Potentially. Yeah. Would you like to just mention your collaborators for the solo? I have some here.
Yeah. So Deanna Peters, I've been working with for many years. She's also been a mentor and a artistic confidant in my life, and offers me such amazing guidance. So she's my creative producer. We're co-producing the work essentially. I felt pretty strong that with this, I don't know, I feel like this is going to be my signature, solo work that I wanted to self-produce. So yeah, Deanna's my creative producer. She helps in so many ways and also is supporting me as artistic eye. So it's such an integrated experience, how we work together. If we're talking about website, if we're talking about press material, if we're talking about talkbacks or, whatever, it's just so integrated. So there's many roles that she's been supporting me with over the years. And as we inch closer to the fall, we'll be a lot more in contact and in connection. Yeah. And then James Proudfoot is going to do my lighting. We have not worked together before, so I'm really excited to work with James. And yeah, obviously he's, the heavy hitter for lighting in Vancouver. And I'm just so excited because me, I like color and intensity and all that. So I'm very excited to work with James and to
And
see.
conceptual stuff. I
Yes,
think there's
concept,
going to
yeah.
be, really, really into that together. Excited by that.
And then I have, sound folks that I've been working with over the years. Wayne LaValle, who we haven't been working together the last few years, but we'll touch base here. But he's my sound design is quite evolved, because it's up until this point I've mostly been working with sound and dance. So Wayne LaValle is my sound designer, and then my good colleague and friend who's here on the tour with me, Kathleen Nisbet, who's a fiddle player and a singer-songwriter, has produced some tracks that are embedded in the sound design. And then I've been working with Brady Marks as a media consultant, and I don't know where things are going still yet with the media, but we're going to have some chats and some visits together. And just, even if media doesn't make it into the work, I still want to discuss the concept of it.
Yeah, I think that's what's so great. And I think that's the integration that you were talking about, and also the conversations, right? So regardless of whether or not that art form makes it into the final piece, there's something about being able to have those conversations at a certain level, which is going to, and just informs the work and your process and the practice itself. They're kind of with you,
Definitely. And then
people with you when you perform.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then that's sort of full circle to like this whole conversation is like the time that it takes for artistic relationships, like to not only be valuing the product. So like any time with Brady or any collaborator is very meaningful, even if it doesn't result in some product that audience sees,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jeanette. This is great.
Thank you.
With our kind of focus on time,
yes,
and the fact that you're going off to another a town to perform right now, I will just say thanks so much. It's so interesting. It's just a start. We'll probably be talking again, I'm sure.
Yes.
about many other things we could talk about. But thank you for taking the time with us. And
thank you, Claire. Okay. I enjoyed that.
Bye for now.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. We would love for you to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, as this will help other listeners find us and help us to grow our dance audience. We'll be back next month. In the meantime, you can follow us on Facebook at The Dance Centre, Twitter at Dance Centre, and Instagram at The Dance Centre BC. And if you'd like to support our work, please consider making a donation. Just go to our website at thedancecentre.ca, where you'll find extensive information about our upcoming programs and events. The music for the Dance Centre podcast was composed by James B. Maxwell. Always a pleasure to connect with you through dance. Until next time.